Today's topic might be seen as a bit controversial, and it's probably gonna get more dislikes than likes. So a quick disclaimer, the purpose of this video is not to hate at the game in any way, but it can't be called positive feedback either. I wouldn't call this a review, nor a news report, but it's something in between. If you want to question anything stated in this video, we'll be glad to discuss it in the comment section. This is also your spoiler warning. Make sure you played through the story before you watch this. But now, we're gonna talk about the state of Generation Zero. When people heard that Avalanche Studios were making a new co-op survival loot and shoot game, their expectations were high. But the release of Generation Zero was not a successful one. The game was met with harsh critique. It was buggy, lacked a lot of the features other games in its category had, and it felt rushed. Some even confused it for an early access title. However, there was something very unique about it. It was set in a completely new environment, one that we had never seen any game take place in, at least as far as I know. As a Swede, yeah, I'm from Sweden, what gave it away? The accent? Anyway, as a Swede, when I first saw the gameplay and the trailers, I was hooked. The game portrayed the Swedish setting and atmosphere so incredibly well. I could just look out my window and the similarities were striking. Well, Sweden doesn't suffer from a deadly robot apocalypse, that's that. The addition of unknown machine invaders, and just the fact that it was set in the 80s, the Cold War's hottest moments, it was just right up my alley. I really wanted Generation Zero to succeed. Me and many people thought that, with time, the devs could fix all the issues, and even focus on some downloadable content, or DLC for short. To a beginning, all the updates were looking really good. The devs started to build up a good foundation. Bugs were fixed, features were added, small in-game events, cosmetics, and even a bike. The devs' primary focus was still to fix the game. Here I really feel like we need to give Avalanche and Systemic Reaction some credit for not giving in on the game, like some other developers tend to do when the game isn't met with the right feedback. Basically, the whole point of this video is that somewhere along the journey, they took a very wrong step. Remember what made Generation Zero special and unique. An untapped environment and setting with an extremely interesting and mysterious story, with a decent amount of realism implemented. On the 16th of June 2020, a trailer for a second DLC, Phoenix Rising, was released. And after the huge success of Alpine Arrest, more on that later, people had regained a lot of the hope for the game, and the expectations were again pretty high. Of course, I can't talk for the whole community, but so was the case among the people I know. The trailer still bears a lot of the mysterious nature of Generation Zero, and yes, mysterious has now become my favorite word. However, it came with a few new additions. One of them was melee weapons. I'm not going to delve deep into why it's kinda stupid to add that to GC, but I will quote a few things mentioned in the Generation Zero 2020 review made by Jojo the Meme Dealer. He mentions how it probably was because of the popular request from the community that the concept of melee weapons made it into the game. However, the community was split on the subject. Some wanted a more subtle melee, maybe using the stock of a gun to bash ticks. In the end, we got the more grand option. The devs didn't stop to think if it would work tonally or logically in the game, and it's fair to say that it was at Phoenix Rising the community had a silent split. One part wanting the original version of the game, and the other liking the new direction the game was taking. The more action-packed round by wanna kill everyone kind of gameplay. According to me, a lot of people forgot what originally made Generation so unique and interesting. Sure, running around mowing down enemies 10 times your size and a whole red army is fun, but there are already so many games that do that just fine. I know that the concept of melee weapons probably came from the community, and it's good that developers listen to what the community likes and wants. But to an extent, the devs need to know what's good for the game. The protagonists of GZ are teens. How could they possibly mow down this? With a frickin' brännboll bat. It feels like Systemic Reaction just kinda forgot what realism is. Back to Phoenix Rising. For me, this DLC was disappointing. It bore the same price tag as Alpine Arrest, but it lacked in content and playtime. It was short and overhyped. It promised the previously mentioned melee weapons and a bunch of other cool features, and the community got the first taste at the new concept of a horde mode. I felt right there and then that that wasn't something that fit GC. It was again probably something added because of the many requests and for something new to the player to do. The story also felt kinda rushed and underwhelming. Sure, the world got some revamps, but some of them, like the Phoenix data centers, were bland and lacked variety. The revamps that Phoenix Rising brought in are still stuff that people expect at launch. Now we're actually gonna get into the stuff that really deserves some positive feedback, and that is the first real paid DLC and world expansion, Alpine Unrest. On the 20th of November 2019, a trailer for a new DLC was released. It was called Alpine Unrest. A few weeks prior to the release of the DLC, the devs had started hinting towards what was coming. Pictures of Himfjell and driver's licenses were posted on social media. The community were sure getting excited. And then it dropped. My friend and I were stunned by how well everything was made. It introduced a whole new island, a ski resort, new buildings, new machine classes, and a well thought through story. Something that made everyone happy. I think that this is how the main story should have been made. The story of Alpine Unrest didn't rely on the already overused "go check this out, maybe there's some survivors" concept. It had walkie-talkies. You were sent out to suppress the machines, and it marked the beginning of the resistance. Himfjell was detailed, unlike the main island. It featured new and usable assets, as well as loads of Easter eggs and cool places to explore. This highlights a major problem GZ is suffering from: details and variety. Many may be impressed by the sheer size of the playable map, but it isn't always about that. In this case, the expression quality before quantity fits like a glove. That's why you hear a lot of people calling the game repetitive and boring. I feel like the devs got a chance to redeem themselves here and show the bright future for the game. Another important thing about this DLC was that it didn't suffer from the release it, fix it later policy. Alpine Unrest was released as a complete expansion of the game, with minimal bugs, and in relation to its content, the bugs are barely findable. According to us, this is how Generation Zero should have been released and designed. Now I'd like to show you the concept art and development vlogs for the game to further prove my point. These pictures do not only show what GC should be, but it proves the huge step the game has taken from its original vision. In the devlog In Depth with the Enemy, in the trailer for GC, it stated how there's always an option to escape combat and run away. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you ran away from an engagement? When was the last time you had to retreat because resources were scarce? When was the last time you had to cancel an engagement and try to find better loot or opt for another route while traveling to your desired location? This kind of gameplay has almost completely been removed from the game. Maybe it happens from time to time in the early game, but once you progress through the farm and marshlands, as far as I know, those tactics fade away. Dan Peak states, the player has a lot of tools that they can use to give themselves advantage in combat. You got the basic weapon things, silences, scopes, but you've also got the more interesting tools, like mines and flares that you can use to set up your own ambushes and your own traps to lure enemies. Here's another question. When was the last time you made a trap? Lured an enemy? Some players may not even have an answer to that, because they've never tried it. Generation Zero has grown easier since launch, and at this point it's almost like you're going out on a Sunday walk holding hands with Rambo. If you buy either of the weapon packs, as soon as you arrive to a storage box, you get 3 crowned weapons. If you ask me, that's almost pay to win in the starting areas. It's almost as if the devs are trying to completely get rid of the unique and tactical combat seen in the starting areas. For some players in the endgame and beyond, it's just painful grind trying to get higher crowned versions of the weapons. Here I would instead suggest some kind of mission, which in relation to each player gives a right crown weapon depending on how far they've progressed through the game. Now I'd like to refer to a comment posted on one of the dev blogs. As a beta tester, this game was amazing. It had a couple of bugs in the beta, as any beta does. But the concept was amazing. Graphics are beautiful, audio sounds were very real and natural, as well as the movements being extraordinarily fluid. Too many games now hold your hand. They tell you where to go, how to get there, who to talk to, and even mark it on your map and compass in case you're incapable of following simple directions. Not Generation Zero. You're told nothing, no map markers either. You find clues and hints as to where to go scattered amongst your surroundings. You'll enter a deserted church and find a chalkboard. The game doesn't tell you it's of any importance, but if you take a moment to look at it, the chalkboard is covered in evacuation plans from the previous occupants. No map markers or anything of the sort. Look at the drawings, figures and directions written on the board and follow them yourself. And not forget where to go, because those hidden hints are your sole direction. If the full game is anything like the beta, it's 100% truly, without a doubt, the first game of its kind. Generation Zero will be setting a bar and establishing a precedent for games to come. There isn't much to say, but it raises questions though. Why? What made the devs decide to step away from the original idea of Generation Zero? When I first noticed what was happening with GC, I still had hope for the game. I had hope that this was just a little detour, a wrong step along the journey. But with the new Resistance update, I wonder if GC is beyond saving. Let's just first go over the positive things brought with this update. Bugs have been fixed. A new weapons pack has been released, a Soviet one, which this time actually fits the story. But it's still disappointing to see them being added with no cool new mission that ties in with the story. Guns apparently appear in your local storage box. The revamps are however really good, and they can be used for some interesting tactics. But these are things that people expect the game to have at launch. Now, let's get into the negatives. First and foremost, the trailer. The trailer itself is good, it's impactful, and it almost gives me the chills. But it's misleading and overhyped. For example, as the narrator says, we're building back our resources. It shows a radio tower and military-grade barracks, something that led me to believe that the base building would play a much larger role. If you paid close attention, you could even spot a new backpack. Was that added? No. It's also mentioned how a resistance is building up. Wait, what resistance? Oh, the one that's hiding in a hotel? Or the ones that's dead? The new tone that's shown in the trailer is what I'm most worried about. Look at this image. This almost reminds me of another Avalanche title. Rage. Now if I was to show you this image, would you even know that I was showing the same game? I get that games progress visually and story-wise, but to an extent. I was never a fan of the whole base building idea. It doesn't fit with the concept of GC, especially now when it's so lazily done. A starting mission, good news, follows the old go there look for that or they're dead kind of gameplay. A step back from Alpine West. First of all, there seems to be a lot of magic involved in the truck getting to the base building location. The resistance, which you can't see because they're hiding in a truck, just suddenly appeared after the horrible destruction physics where the falls fell down through the ground and disintegrated. The opportunity was there to make a unique mission where you, for example, guarded the resistance and escorted them to the base building location. The base building itself is also a disappointment. You're limited to a certain number of structures. There are very few structures to choose from. And I know that the devs have said that they're gonna improve and expand on it later, but then we're back at square one again. The policy of release it, fix it later. The modes are also too easy. You could probably complete the whole thing on hard without even building a single structure. You could argue that the expansion on crafting is good, but no. You can now craft ultra medkits and ammo types. More stuff that holds your hand even more. Remember the comment I told you about earlier? I actually like the idea of ammo types, but by that I mean those that are a bit more realistic. Remember how I said that the Soviet weapons pack was in the positive side of the Resistance update? And yes, it's a Soviet weapon pack, not a Russian one. The Soviet Union was comprised of 14 other countries or republics besides Russia. Well, that wasn't completely true. One of the points that both people that love the game and dislikes it is that the gunplay is fantastic, and the animations are fluid. However, it seems as though these weapons didn't get the love they deserve, as the animation for reloading has been used again for the tactical reload. Let me show you. When you insert the magazine into a gun, you have to cock it to load the round into the chamber. But that's only when you reload a depleted magazine or an empty gun. If you were to do a tactical reload, which is done by reloading before the magazine has been depleted, the animation for the depleted magazine is being used again, but this time it's abruptly cut off. As far as I'm aware, these are the only guns with this problem. It might not be the biggest concern, but it's still just very lazy. But hopefully it's just a visual bug that they'll patch in the next update. One of the great problems facing GC is that it's boring and repetitive in the long end. A lot of that is caused by the overused mission structure. After you completed the story, there isn't much to do, except for the Reapers / rivals and Femtal Station and the newly added Horde mode. But let's start with the Reaper. For me, the Reaper boss came as another disappointment. Alpine Unrest had set it up for an awesome entry. It could have been introduced with an interesting backstory that followed the development of why and how it was built. But what we got was a bullet sponge tank on steroids. The progression for even making it to spawn is grindy and unclear. The first time me and Brödkanten tried to battle it, we had to watch a YouTube tutorial just to understand how to get it to spawn. And let's not even mention the experimental sledgehammer. That might just be the most stupid thing Systemic Reaction has added yet. There is no lore behind that thing. And even if it was, it would absolutely not have made any sense. Just look at it. Would this be something you could see a Swedish soldier bring into combat? I would have been certain Thor existed on this very earth. Another solution and request from the community for the repetitive gameplay was daily or weekly assignments. This is in theory a really good solution, but the way it's executed here, again, makes me disappointed. First of all, the assignments themselves are boring. They're not creative in any way. And some of them are too grindy. Systemic Reaction is capable of making fun and exciting challenges, as shown in the challenges. Let's take the challenges from the music that soothes the soul and the survivor category. Here you have to use intricate tactics to lure enemies, which are genuinely fun. Sure, some of them are a bit basic, but at least the rewards make you want to grind for them. There's some really cool cosmetics. My favorite is the Soviet ring with the bear insignia. The rewards for the assignments are bland. You can only have 3 inactive at once, and you can't track them, so you can't see them while you're playing the game. There's no neat animation or sound for when you completed it. It's just text. For some reason you have to register on another platform. Shouldn't this be something that's integrated to perhaps Steam, PlayStation or Xbox accounts? It's utterly lazy, and another big missed opportunity. In conclusion, Generation Zero has lost its original charm for me and many others. It has quite frankly become bland. The devs are going against the original idea of the game, while GC is gaining new players as a consequence of the dramatic change in tone and feel. They're also losing. Players that enjoyed the game for being unique, a first of its kind, has now moved on to other games. And I understand that the development team is small, but that shouldn't be an excuse for how poorly some features are made. It may take longer. It may take the time it needs. In the end, we all just want Generation Zero to succeed. Thanks for watching, everyone. Again, this shouldn't be considered as hate towards the game. More a heads up what's going on with the game. We had a blast making this video and it took a while. So if you like this type of content, please let us know by hitting the like or subscribing and sharing this video. Also, thanks a lot for the recent lovely feedback on our GOG glitch video. We really appreciate it. But now, goodbye and have a nice rest of your day.